Hi everyone, Rick Russell here. Stand by for channel markers.
With the signal of departure comes a sudden change of mood. The vessel is not moved, but the passenger already is part of a new world, as if he were miles away from the old. When the last gangway is swung away from the ship and the last line is cast off, the United States becomes an island unto herself. The world's fastest ship starting on her 4.5-day voyage to Europe.
A short distance downriver from battleship New Jersey and cruiser Olympia, tied at Pier 82, SS United States sits idle and rusting. She's been a familiar fixture on the Philadelphia waterfront and a part of the local landscape for decades. Her silhouette of two large funnels is as recognizable as New Jersey's. We had no reason to believe she was in imminent danger. But you know what they say about assuming? By court order, though, the ship must leave the berth. Unfortunately, she has nowhere to go. So her status as a beloved yet neglected relic of a bygone era could soon end. When Jack asked me to write a script about the United States, I'll admit that I only had a basic understanding of her significance and value as a symbol of American shipbuilding. But the United States is truly one of a kind, an engineering marvel, and one of the largest and most complex machines ever conceived and built by Americans. In her day, she not only stood for our optimism after World War II, but also the post-war era's love for speed, luxury, and modernity. Steamship United States was the creation of William Francis Gibbs, a self-trained and visionary naval architect who dreamed of designing the fastest ocean liner in the world. He was no stranger to large, fast, and innovative ship designs. In the 1930s, he designed a mammoth hybrid battle carrier for Stalin's Navy. If built, the ship would have had 12 16-inch guns, a flight deck, and a propulsion plant designed to produce as much shaft horsepower as the reactors in a nuclear-powered carrier produce today. His firm, Gibbs & Cox, claimed that 70% of all U.S. tonnage launched during the conflict, including such war-winning weapons as the LST and Liberty ship, as well as major surface combatants, minesweepers, and tankers, were built to its designs. With the war won, Gibbs focused on building a large ocean liner that fused his innovative ideas about design and propulsion. Impressed by Queen Mary's wartime service as a high-speed troop transport, he envisioned a new type of luxury liner that could be swiftly converted into wartime transport. Gibbs convinced the U.S. government to help fund the ship's construction, and in 1949, his great ship was ordered by the United States lines. At the same time, the U.S. Navy was losing its public relations battle with the Air Force over roles and missions. And after the Navy's first supercarrier, United States, CVA-58, was laid down on a Monday and canceled by Secretary of Defense Lewis Johnson the following Saturday, in April 1949, yard workers at Newport News Shipbuilding and Dry Dock Company in Virginia scratched their heads in disbelief and cleared the building way. Next up, Gibbs' special project. In February 1950, they laid the keel for the nation's first superliner, a vessel almost 1,000 feet in length. It would be named United States II. A mere coincidence, the authorities said. By the way, we'll deal with Harry Truman's bad attitude toward the Navy in a future video, probably when we discuss poorly named ships, for example, CVN 75. The United States was built during 1950 and 1951, when the Cold War was turning hot. The Korean War had started in June 1950, and Defense Secretary Johnson requisitioned the ship. When President Truman replaced Johnson with five-star General George C. Marshall, the general decided against converting her. When United States was launched on June 23, 1951, she became the largest vessel of any kind ever built in the U.S. She is still the largest passenger ship ever constructed in the U.S. The bill came to $78 million. Gibbs's revolutionary design for the United States combined luxury with functionality and safety. To achieve greater speed and fuel efficiency, he obsessively found ways to reduce the ship's weight, such as extensively using lightweight aluminum in the superstructure. Gibbs's emphasis on fireproofing meant creating a decor made from materials like glass and metal and leather. Unlike Queen Mary, wood was mostly absent from her interior. What he created was a sleek, minimalist, and modern aesthetic. Let's face it, the United States was most famous for her high speed. Her propulsion system improved on existing naval designs and was comparable to the propulsion plant used in the Iowa class. As with the North Carolina class battleships, engineers solved a serious vibration problem created at high speed by fitting the ship with a mixed prop arrangement, 2 props with 4 blades and 2 with 5. In practice, the system propelled the ship at an unprecedented speed, which, given the Navy's interest, remained highly classified. On July 3, 1952, she left New York on her maiden voyage for Southampton, England, and immediately took the eastbound transatlantic speed record from Queen Mary. She crossed in 3 days, 10 hours, and 42 minutes, averaging more than 35 knots and slashing Queen Mary's record by 10 hours. She easily took the harder westbound record from Queen Mary on the return trip. The coveted Blue Riband for fastest transatlantic crossings is still hers.
When she's clear of New York Harbor, the United States responds to the commands of veteran deck officers. One of these experienced men signals full ahead as down in the spotless engine room, powerful steam turbines drive the ship to cruising speed, over 30 knots.
Winning the Blue Riband was a triumph not only for Gibbs and his team, but also for the American shipping industry, which had long been overshadowed by the British. The United States became a symbol of American engineering and technological might. Throughout the 1950s and early 1960s then, the United States served as the premier mode of travel for wealthy passengers, celebrities, artists, and politicians. Her reputation for speed, safety, and luxury continued to draw such notable passengers as President Kennedy, Cary Grant, Salvador Dali, and Walt Disney into the early 1960s. The ship could accommodate 2,000 passengers and had a crew of almost 1,000. But it all ended in what seemed like the blink of an eye. Commercial jet travel offered faster, cheaper, and more convenient transatlantic journeys. By the mid-1960s, the number of passengers traveling by ship had dropped drastically. Despite her speed, luxury, and prestige, the United States could not compete with the growing popularity of airliners. Even Cunard's queens, Mary and Elizabeth, were retired and sold. Gibbs himself missed the end. He died in September 1967. In 1969, following the financial collapse of United States lines, the United States was abruptly withdrawn from service. The announcement even caught her crew by surprise. The Navy took possession and placed her in mothballs. Sadly, later attempts to repurpose the ship often appeared as well-thrown and timely lifesavers, but the toss always fell short. In 1977, her top speed, 38.32 knots, was declassified. 3 years later, the U.S. government released its claim on the ship. By the 1990s, the United States was a slowly deteriorating artifact tied to the slowly deteriorating Philadelphia waterfront. But there was always hope. In 1992, the United States was auctioned to a shipping company owned by a Turkish American who had emigrated on board the United States in the 60s. He had the ship towed to Ukraine, where the asbestos and other toxic materials were stripped from her interior down to bare metal. In 1996, she returned to Philadelphia. Unfortunately, this chapter of the ship's story also didn't end well, and so it went year after year. In 2009, the Great Recession torched her last chance to return to seagoing service. Norwegian Cruise Lines had spent 6 years studying, planning, and covering the ship's maintenance costs, only to decide not to use it. So the SS United States Conservancy, a nonprofit organization, was formed to try to save the ship. In the meantime, elaborate plans to develop a multi-purpose waterfront complex along the Delaware River, with the United States as the centerpiece, also collapsed. In 2011, with a gift of $5.8 million from Jerry Lenfest, the late Philadelphia media entrepreneur, philanthropist, and retired Navy captain, whose father's shop built the watertight doors and bridge equipment for the United States, the Conservancy bought the ship from Norwegian's parent company. As they always had in the past, more opportunities followed, mainly because it's hard to kill something that big. One plan involved moving the ship to New York or Miami, but as time continued its relentless march, the opportunities dwindled too. And after 2013, the prospect of scrapping the United States became all too real. Nonetheless, as recently as 2018, the Conservancy sold options to companies that wished to explore redevelopment plans. These deals fizzled too, given the enormous investment required to restore the ship. But the fees helped defray the ship's high cost of maintenance. The story doesn't get any better. During the COVID pandemic, the Conservancy became embroiled in a legal dispute with Penn Warehouses and Distribution, the company that owns Pier 82. Penn had doubled its monthly rate, but its contract with the Conservancy did not provide for rate increases. The Conservancy refused to pay, and the case landed in federal court. On June 14, 2024, Judge Anita Brody disallowed the company's financial claims against the Conservancy, but still ordered the ship to be removed from the pier within 90 days. In other words, by September 12, 2024. Evicted. Enter Okaloosa County on Florida's Panhandle. The county is interested in purchasing and sinking the ship as an artificial reef. If a deal is completed, then the United States would take her place near the Essex-class carrier Oriskany, which was sunk in the coastal waters of adjacent Escambia County in 2006. So there we are. For decades, Steamship United States has existed as a cherished symbol of American maritime history and ingenuity. Whether her captivating story of triumph and loss continued to inspire future generations from an underwater grave remains to be seen. Stay tuned. That's all for this channel marker. Thanks for watching. Leave a comment or recommend another subject below. As always, please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video.